Hello and welcome back to our channel. Criminals are dangerous and a threat to peace and harmony. Some get caught while some escape. Prisons are like hell for these people, however. Some prisons treat these people barbarically, and that is much criticized everywhere. In this video, we will be taking a look at what the media tried to hide about the federal Supermax prison. But before that, what is Supermax? The administrative maximum facility of the United States Penitentiary, often known as ADX Florence or Supermax, is a U.S. federal prison in Fremont County, located near Florence, Colorado. The United States Department of Justice's Federal Bureau of Prisons, a division, is in charge of running it. ADX Florence, built in 1994 and inaugurated the following year, is classified as a Supermax or control unit prison, offering a higher, more regulated degree of custody than a maximum security prison or high security, as it is known in the federal prison system. ADX Florence is a section of the Federal Correctional Complex. Florence, FCC Florence, a 49-acre complex that includes the United States Penitentiary, Florence High, and other institutions with various levels of security. When the Federal Bureau of Prisons required a unit specifically for the secure housing of those inmates most capable of committing acts of extreme violence against staff or other inmates, as well as those inmates deemed too high profile or too much of a security risk for even a maximum security prison, ADX Florence was commissioned. To prevent self-harm, the offenders are confined for the most of the day in solitary cells with amenities built of poured, reinforced concrete. They also get extensive 24-hour surveillance with high staff-to-inmate ratios. Moving on, let's discuss who actually lives in that building. Inmate population. Unofficially, the facility is referred to as ADX Florence or the Alcatraz of the Rockies. As of February 2019, the complex's minimum security camp housed more inmates than the Supermax section. Due to a drop in the number of convicts as of 2021, 2 housing facilities have to shut. The federal prison system's most dangerous and tightly supervised male detainees, including those whose escape would seriously jeopardize national security. As of July 15, 2023, 328 male convicts in the Florence Supermax unit are each allocated to one of 6 security levels. Although 474 convicts can be housed, it has never been fully occupied. The institution is primarily recognized for keeping offenders who have been determined to pose a security risk or to be too dangerous for even maximum security prisons. 5 renowned terrorists, 4 of whom were domestic terrorists. Timothy McVeigh, Terry Nichols, Ramsey Youssef, Eric Rudolph, and Ted Kaczynski were detained in one of Florence's cell blocks, which was dubbed Bomber's Row at one point. The facility has housed Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, Richard Colvin Reed, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, and Abu Hamza al-Masri, and many other dangerous people. But what does media hide? Cruel conditions. In both state and federal prisons during the past 25 years, the number and proportion of inmates kept in isolation has skyrocketed. Senator Richard Durbin stated that the huge increase in the use of solitary confinement is a human rights concern we can't ignore during a Senate subcommittee hearing. Every jail contains solitary confinement cells for criminals who attack guards or other inmates, attempt to flee, or cause other types of disturbance. Then there are Supermax prisons, institutions built to house the worst of the worst, where offenders are kept in isolation for 23 hours every day. According to someone who went into the Supermax prison told about its horrifying conditions, they said that one prisoner in the psychiatric section was shouting at no one while standing in the center of his cell. One more was hitting the jail door with his head. All 128 beds were occupied. Here at this section, 1 out of every 10 prisoners detained in segregation was kept. Many of the prisoners here weren't clothed. Some people were exposing themselves. A chalkboard outside the section described the severity of the psychological issues there. They are constantly exposed to this environment. There is very little time for them to be permitted outside, just an hour and a half. Imagine a wheel with spokes, and in the middle of each spoke is a correctional officer who sits in front of computers and controls the machinery with buttons while being behind glass. Cell after cell follows, with the convicts living in these 8 by 8 foot chambers that are made entirely of concrete and furnished only with a chair and a desk made of stainless steel. The officer presses a button to release the prisoner for the hour and a half of outside time. A huge concrete cage with 20-foot sides and a grate on top is the outside. It would certainly accommodate 2 automobiles inside. So the sky is visible if you gaze directly up. You may catch a glimpse of the sun if it were high noon, but otherwise there aren't any games or activities to engage in outside. Once the officer is given the all clear, hit the button. You will enter your cell once again, and that will be all. Additionally, you won't engage with anyone or talk to the officer. The doors to the other cells, which you will pass through, are constructed of solid steel and have nickel-sized holes in them. You can only truly see the eyes or a few persons behind the wall, but you aren't engaging with the cops or other prisoners. Then, 3 times every day, someone comes over and inserts a meal tray into the door's slot. You seldom ever converse with that person, and the majority of the folks said they hadn't touched or even spoken to anyone outside outside of this extremely small area in years. The shower is down the hallway. Therefore, the officer behind the glass will press the button while looking down at that wheel spoke. 3 times every week, that prisoner is supposed to take a shower. He makes his way to the bathroom to use the shower before returning to enter his cell. At any particular moment, only one prisoner is permitted to leave their cell. These conditions are inhumane, to say the least, are they not? Murder. There have been killings at ADX despite the strict security measures in place to stop disruptive, aggressive, and risky conduct among convicts. Manuel Torres, a senior member of the Mexican Mafia, was killed, and Silvestre Rivera and Richard Santiago were both charged with the crime of first-degree murder. On the morning of April 21, 2005, Rivera and Santiago were captured on camera, violently beating and stomping Torres to death while left unattended in the jail yard. In self-defense, Rivera entered a not guilty plea. Rivera and Santiago were both granted life sentences for the killings, despite the fact that the prosecution had planned to seek the death penalty for them. As of right now, Rivera is detained at USP Hazleton while Santiago is still housed at ADX. Controversies. In Cunningham-Vries Federal Bureau of Prisons, a federal class action lawsuit was brought by 11 prisoners against the Bureau of Prisons in 2012. The lawsuit claimed that convicts with major mental illnesses had been misdiagnosed and subjected to ongoing torture. At least 6 detainees were reported to have committed suicide at the time the complaint was filed. A 7th did so after it was initially filed, and his addition to the case was made in an updated filing. Numerous research backs up the contention that long-term solitary confinement has a negative impact on convicts' mental health. A federal magistrate was assisting in the settlement talks as of March 2015. Luckily, the Bureau of Prisons has made some adjustments, but it does not end here. Prisoners housed in Unit H are subject to unique administrative restrictions that forbid them from speaking privately with their own attorneys or family members or with the media. A British court turned down Julian Assange's request to be extradited to the US in 2020 on the grounds that he would be subjected to solitary confinement and severe administrative measures at ADX. He was facing espionage accusations. The United States was given permission to appeal this ruling by the High Court of Justice for England and Wales on July 7, 2021, on the understanding that Assange will not be subject to SAMS or imprisoned at ADX if he is extradited. And that brings us to the end of today's video, which I hope you found riveting. Please remember to like and subscribe to our channel. Tap the bell icon to make sure you never miss an upload. Leave a comment below and give us all your feedback, and if you agree that the prison is indeed inhumane, and I will catch you in the next one.